Welcome to another episode of Health Matters with PA Lynn Szabo. I'm Heather Polen, and I will be your hostess. What are we going to talk about today?
Hot fun in the summertime. I feel like we ought to have backup singers and stuff like that.
We're not hot in Crescent City, so we're like hot times in Gasky
We're
and Hyuchi.
affected by hot. I mean, you don't have to go very far to be hot, like Hyuchi, probably. But we also get a lot of people who are fleeing hot from like Reading
That's
for
true.
a couple of weeks.
Medford, Grants Pass, yeah.
So when I wrote this, I wrote the whole thing, and it did not include heat-related illness. And I woke up this morning and went, "What?" And so let's start with heat-related illness. So
Okay.
there's two forms actually. One is heat stroke, which the core body temperature is over 104 degrees, and then heat exhaustion is kind of not as serious a disease and is more like the meandering path that your body is taking to get to heat stroke. Okay.
So it's like the first.
Yeah, it's kind of the initial stages, but
Okay.
it's not heat stroke. So the core body temperature probably under 104 degrees. So with heat stroke, the important thing to remember is that there's a neurologic component with it. So heat stroke, your temperature's over 104 degrees, and your brain is like not taking it well. So you start to get symptoms including headache, nausea, and vomiting, which can be related to brain malfunction.
So you're like cooking your brain.
Yeah. Dizziness and muscle pain.
All right.
Yeah. And then the people who are more at risk, this is kind of sad, are older people, but also people that have impaired cognition and don't really take care of themselves very well and may not be aware of what's happening. And so they're going to be relying around their community of caregivers around them to be able to catch that something's up.
So I have a question. So is that kind of like, because I'm hoping this isn't one of those old wives' tales that I've just always believed the whole of my life.
Right.
But like if you have hypothermia, as you're getting close to the end stages of hypothermia, you actually have the reverse effect where you think you're burning up, and so you take off all your clothes, which is why they find naked people
Yeah, I think
in the snow.
Are you saying hypothermia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Too cold.
Too cold.
So is this like the opposite end of that? You're having issues with your brain and you don't know that you're having heat exhaustion or heat stroke, and you're doing the opposite things?
Kind of, but you might not have been together enough to be able to recognize what was going on in any
From
way.
the very beginning. Okay.
From the very beginning, because that's what got you into this problem. Maybe you live in Texas and you're an 89-year-old grandma and you go to Walmart with your family, but you don't you don't walk very well, and so they leave you in the car, and you're not together enough to know that could be a heat-related emergency.
Okay. Don't leave grandma, kids, or pets in the car. Got it.
Never. So risk factors are older people and people that are not thinking clearly. But conversely, heat exhaustion, which is not as bad as heat stroke, but still kind of uncomfortable, still causing problems with the body, is more common in young athletes, and they don't really have neurologic symptoms. So that's somebody like the ultra marathoner who's going to run through Death Valley in the middle of the summer. They can definitely get to heat stroke and have a problem with that, but along the way, they kind of go through stages that are like called heat exhaustion.
So this is the precursor to your heat stroke.
Precursor. So they're both treated differently. Heat exhaustion is treated with fluids, either orally or IV, and probably getting people to a cooler environment, right? So you get them out of the heat source, you cool them down by giving them cold water to drink. If they're pretty significant, like the Death Valley example, there are probably people around that'll stick a IV in them to cool them down. But stroke is treated more aggressively, and what they do is they immerse people in an ice bath. Ew. Can you imagine being a not too clear thinking grandma and all of a sudden being dumped in an ice bath?
No.
I would be I would be arguing about that, or maybe fighting against it.
Right. I'm thinking at this time, too, in our
Right.
societies and things, too, that's actually probably not a submerged in the ice
No,
bath
no,
thing
not
in
submerged.
Crescent City, but putting
Right.
ice around you.
Right. And so you can do that, but the ice packs go specifically at the armpits, the neck, the groin, and on top of the head. And there can be actually a problem with cooling people down too rapidly and shooting them into what we call iatrogenic hypothermia, which just means abnormal lowering of the temperature because we tried to solve a problem and we overshot. Iatrogenic is a word that points the finger at the medical provider.
Gotcha.
Medical misadventure, maybe. So for people going out to the river, what should they bring to kind of take care of themselves when they're out there if the heat is an issue? Probably an ice chest. They're going to probably be doing that anyway if they have food or beer or something. And then the river's cold, also a good source of cold to touch water, not really drinking water usually, although some people drink it, and I would in an emergency. And then just being sensitized to the possibility that it could happen, and be watching people around you, especially people who are not thinking very clearly.
Okay.
So
because you mentioned beer, so if you're going up to Haiichi-Gaski, swim up in the river, and it's hot, and you take your beer, right? Is that an old wives' tale too? That's going to raise your body temperature, so you're more likely to get heat exhaustion or heat stroke?
I actually think that is an old wives' tale. I think what really happens is you become not very good at reading the cues around you, and maybe continuing to do something that's dangerous and thinking that you're okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the next thing on the list is kind of one of my favorite diagnoses, poison oak. Luckily, I don't get it. That might be why I like it so much. But
like you're immune to it?
No, I don't think I'm immune to it. I just haven't gotten it yet, although Lord knows I've been around enough of it.
Okay.
But we call it Rhus dermatitis because Rhus is the genus for poison oak, poison ivy, I think poison sumac too. So remember, this discussion kind of extends to all the possibilities, but what we have here is poison oak. And all parts of the plant have the irritating oils. I didn't know that. So even the roots.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea. So, and you can also get secondary exposure and contaminated clothes, the classic pet fur claws under your fingernails.
Uh-huh.
And you can spread it because it's under your fingernails. And up here, dogs are seen as a common vector. And I kind of always went along with that, but didn't really believe it until recently. And now I'm like a true believer. So treatments are steroids, mostly shot versus pills. And so everybody comes in and they want the shot. And I try and talk them out of it. Although I've given it to some people, but pharmacologically, the shot doesn't kick in for like a day and a half, and it doesn't last long enough to therapeutically take care of a poison oak outbreak.
So if you want effective, you want the pills.
Yeah, and a lot of people are so afraid of getting it that they want both, which I've done before if I think they might have an airway issue or something. But if your provider says, most providers just go with the shot, and then the people come back and see me, and in like a week, and they're not better. So, and I give them the pills. Yeah. So the pill course of treatment should be about 2 or 3 weeks of pills. Now there are steroids that are packaged in like a 5-day taper, and that people get those for poison oak, and 5 days isn't enough. You need 2 to 3 weeks of steroids at a certain dosing level in order to actually have it work. So just be aware of that as a patient, and you can ask, maybe you can be more involved in your actual care, and say, hey, I was reading that maybe it should be 2 or 3 weeks of pills. And that sounds like a lot to a provider, but that's what you need to get the job done, and people mostly tolerate it well. Also picked up an interesting point. I always recommend antihistamines, and I recommend Zyrtec. But in my research here, it says that antihistamines don't do anything for poison oak, but they do make the patient sleepy. And sleep is kind of relief from itching, if you think about it.
Yes, it is.
Not
So
always.
it's for comfort, not
Right. So it's a comfort measure. It's not really a step forward in getting better. So I have to change the way I think about that after 40 years.
Look at you learning.
Yeah, I know. And they're recommending something called Burroughs solution for comfort, and that's also called Dome Burroughs solution. So Burrows solution is over the counter, and it's kind of like a topical soothing agent. So not doing anything really to get you better, but definitely making you less miserable. And it should be pretty cheap, actually, over the counter.
Right, we've talked about this before. Better is better. So even if
Better
you just
is better.
feel better, light a candle, say
Right.
a prayer. Better
Right.
is better.
Yeah. Well, placebo is about 30%,
There you go.
and better is better. And I would be happy to be better because of placebo.
Right.
I totally would. So there was also an interesting thing. Now they're saying after exposure, wash your body with warm soapy water. I was always heard it should be cold water so you don't open up your pores and kind of lock the oils in. But they're saying warm soapy water, doesn't matter what kind of soap, although people are kind of attached to Dawn dishwashing soap. But there's no real reason to do that.
Is that, well, I would think because it breaks open the oils and the plant, because that's
Right.
what Dawn is known for, is to
Right, because
destroying
mostly
oil.
because it is the soap of choice for birds and oil immersion. So, and people are extrapolating probably from that. But the best prevention is avoidance. And that, like, really, like not going to the river for a summer in Del Norte. That sounds like a sad alternative.
That is a sad alternative, but
Yeah.
that would just be like if, right, the whole leaves of 3 let it be thing, stay away from it. If you see it's over there in that part of the
Right.
trail,
So be aware.
make sure your dog doesn't go.
Be aware of what it looks like.
Yeah.
And be aware that it can look like many things. In medicine, we call syphilis the great imitator because it looks like a lot of other diseases. I think in the plant world, we can call poison oak the great imitator because it looks like a lot of other things.
So keep your dog on a leash, keep it next to you, walk on the trail.
Right.
So yeah, I would think that's all avoiding.
Yeah. But they do have barrier creams like Ivy Block, and I'm not really advocating for a particular brand or anything, but they're over the counter and they need to be used frequently and obviously before you've been exposed, right? And then they talked an interesting little paragraph about desensitization, and a lot of firefighters want to talk about this. Apparently, some Native peoples, historically it's been recorded, that they chew up poison oak leaves to desensitize their body to the irritant. And I'm not certain if that's true or not, because I could see somebody maybe...
I'm going to go with don't do that. So if you're listening to this episode,
Yeah.
please don't do that. It does not sound like a good idea.
Right. Do not do that. So science doesn't back it up. And I'm not even sure it's a real thing. A lot of people say Native people say stuff and they don't. So that's the end of poison oak. The next one's sunburn prevention.
Yeah, we should have had this conversation on Friday.
Be aware that sunburn happens with all skin types, but individual sensitivity definitely varies. It's mostly a problem in kids and young adults, but the skin never forgets. And as you age, that peeling sunburn you got from that summer in Reading when you were 10 starts to make itself known. Peeling sunburns tend to up your possibility of skin cancer as you age.
Okay, so what do you mean it makes itself known? So I got sunburned when I was 20, super bad, blistered.
Peeling sunburn. That means when you're about 60 or 70, you're going to start seeing the damage that caused.
Okay, so
And
whether it's just age spots or it's skin cancer, whatever,
Right.
I'm going to start.
It can be anywhere on the continuum.
Okay.
And so people that have had A lot of, they grew up in the Central Valley perhaps, and they swam in the irrigation ditches, and they got sunburned because they had blonde hair and blue eyes. And all summer long, their mom was telling them, see, I told you to wear a T-shirt this time, because they were peeling everywhere and in misery. Those people should be going to a dermatologist for yearly skin screens. And what that dermatologist would do is pretty much look at every nook and cranny once a year to see that something isn't starting to develop.
Okay.
And
good to
Josie
know.
Voss here, our dermatologic PA, is really good at that.
Okay.
But they look in every nook and cranny, like between your toes and everything. So sometimes sunburn can be severe and cause headache, fever, nausea, and vomiting. And sometimes it causes something called Hell's Itch, which I've never heard of it.
Oh yeah, you can get burned so bad that
Right.
it's like you want to unzip your skin and then itch from underneath.
Right.
It's horrid.
Yeah, any scratching, there's no medicine that really calms it down, and it's painful, I understand.
It does go away in a couple days though.
Okay. So prevention measures include shade, protective clothing, broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of at least 30. And apparently you have to apply it 15 minutes before exposure and then reapply every 2 hours. I would argue that it's better to have an SPF that's higher, because once, let's say you've got SPF of 70, once you smooth that across your skin, across your body, the SPF factor becomes diminished, right? Because you're kind of deconcentrating the amount of barrier. Does that make sense? So, and then reapply it. And definitely reapply after you've been, immersed in water or something. So the next thing is bee stings, kind of close to my heart because I'm an apprentice beekeeper and I get a fair amount of stings lately.
Uh-oh.
And stinging insects can be honeybees or bumblebees, and also yellow jackets. So the first thing to do, I say this from experience, remove the stinger. Because as soon as that stinger is out, the whole pain associated with it is much less.
Okay, is this like you have to be extra careful not to squeeze the little poison sac on the bottom of it so it doesn't push more in?
No, I just swear and then wipe it off as fast as I can.
Okay.
With my hive tool, actually, with kind of a blunt edge, like a credit card edge or something like that. So, and uncomplicated stings are treated with cold compresses, anti-inflammatories, topical steroid cream. But sometimes they get infected and might require antibiotics. That's usually a hard call. That involves going in to see your provider. But about 40 people die yearly in the United States of bee stings. Dang. So anything with respiratory symptoms needs emergent care. And for those of you who are allergic to bees or other stinging insects, you should always have 2 EpiPens. EpiPens work really well if you use it, but they also wear off really quickly. And if it takes a while, as rural folk find, to get to the hospital, you really have to have at least 2 of them.
They're so spendy, though.
Well, I know. If they're expired, use them anyway.
Okay.
Because if you have nothing else.
Yeah, I haven't had an EpiPen in probably 15 years.
Well,
I just don't get them anymore.
Maybe you need to get one. There might be some freebie samples. There were for a while at Open Door. So bring a first aid kit that has all the basics, like Band-Aids and antibiotic ointment. Over-the-counter bacitracin is what's recommended.
What's bacitracin?
A topical over-the-counter ointment that you can use for like boo-boos.
Is that so like Neosporin?
Yeah, but it's not Neosporin. It's a different antibiotic. So Neosporin has a lot of people who are actually allergic to it. And I think for a while they were saying Neosporin was a cofactor in the development of MRSA. I don't know if that's true or not. It might be a data-free zone, but bacitracin is preferred.
What's the brand name that bacitracin would be in?
Bacitracin.
Okay, that's the brand name too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I really want to recommend the trails at Elk Valley. Have you been there yet?
I have not. I have been super busy and exhausted, but I
Oh.
do believe I'm going to go next week. I've heard amazing things.
Yeah, so it's right there by the Elk Valley Casino, and it's kind of a small loop that goes up to the left and then like a longer spur and in and out spur that goes up to the right, and I think that would be left would be east, right would be west. I'm not really certain how long it is. Somebody told me the small loop was 1.6 miles, but that didn't correspond to what I was getting on my phone when I hiked it. It is not the best graded trail. So if you're an old lady like me, it's slippery in parts and kind of steep in parts. So I had to zigzag down certain points. But the kids around me and young families didn't seem to have that infirmity.
There is an ADA compliant section, the beginning portion of the trail that I do
Okay.
believe is slightly less than a mile that you can take. So if you have issues with walking or wheelchair or
Right.
canes or anything
Yeah, I can
else.
picture right where that is, and it is lovely. So for the first part, you're kind of meandering through actual Elk Valley, which they have a lot of warnings about interacting with the elk, and we all know that's dangerous. But I'm not sure the tourists are up on that. But
No,
they
they're
were
not.
warned. They were warned, and it's so beautiful. Even my dog was kind of enjoying the view. And
Nice.
then, a slow but steady hike up around a beautiful old Sitka spruce. And then, we kind of were going right at the where the border of the forest and the prairie is there.
Okay.
Super beautiful. And then what I've heard is that the spur that goes off to the west, and I think there's an overlook to the ocean, isn't there?
I don't know if I've been up there. It's my understanding, too, as they're building out their site, their complex, that there will be an overlook to see the ocean and then also an elk overlook so that you can go and be with the elk in a safe manner.
Okay.
And it's safe for you and your family and your pets, and it's safe for the elk.
The only thing that I found a little bit hard to understand is the maps that they have around the brochure that advertising it doesn't have any mileage on it, so it's a little hard to tell whether you should plan to spend 2 hours there or 10 minutes there or but I think that information is probably available, and once you've been there you have a better idea. So that's really a self-limiting minor problem.
Right. And isn't all hiking, it's the length of time that you want to be there? Like, you just go,
Yeah.
and when you're done, you leave.
It's just a meander.
Right?
So yeah, but I was really impressed with how it was set up, and that it's available and being also in our community well utilized. I saw a lot of families, a lot of elder couples kind of walking along the trail, and everybody was super engaged with the banana slug that was in the middle of the trail.
You can't go wrong with a banana slug.
I know, one of my favorites. So so I just wanted to give a shout out for that. So when you're out in the summertime, I think the worst hazard that you can expect there, I didn't see any poison oak, and it is partially and mostly, I would guess, in the shade, but that depends on what part of the day you're there. But I think there are some slippery gravel, so it might be good to have some Band-Aids and some bacitracin.
Nice. All right, so I Googled it.
Mm-hmm.
It says the new adventure awaits. Discover the trails at Elk Valley, a scenic 1.5-mile round trip walking trail winding through forest and open prairie adjacent to Elk Valley Casino, just south of Crescent City, California. Along the way, enjoy wildlife viewing, including Roosevelt elk, and explore the interpretive displays celebrating tribal culture and local history. It's open daily from dawn to dusk and free to the public.
Yeah, and actually there's a lot of really beautiful wildflowers there. I think if you go, I think our former colleague Amanda Doctor posted a picture of a really beautiful farewell spring, which is in the Clarkia family. And the Sitka spruce that was identified on the trail was definitely an ancient tree and quite beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're into biology, I imagine the bird watching is good too.
I would imagine.
Yeah, because you've got two different environments there. So thank you to the tribe for making that possible for us. And then I hope people get out there and go see it. The next thing I wanted to bring up is about this upcoming weekend, which is the 4th of July weekend. Sadly, the acute care clinic at Open Door or Del Norte Community Health Center, or the old A Street Clinic, as it's sometimes still called, is not going to be staffed. The workers there are taking the weekend off, so nobody should go there expecting care this coming Saturday.
So that would be July 4th. Mm-hmm. So it's closed for the holiday.
Right, closed for the holiday.
So if you blow off your fingers, burn yourself, whatever it is, go to the hospital. Urgent care.
Right. Which urgent care would that be?
I don't know. It's not open yet, so you have to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I think, you're right. So you got the ER is kind of what you got. Or you could drive up to Brookings and
Brookings urgent care.
They have an urgent care. You could go down to Eureka and they have Redwood urgent care is likely open. But I would call before you go down there. So be careful with firecrackers.
Those are illegal.
Yeah, my other hot health tip. So yeah, people should have fun out in the woods and performing outdoor activities, but a little bit of caution never hurts. And knowing what to do about stuff is super helpful.
True story. And then don't forget to, if you're coming here to visit or if you're local, they are doing the crackdown on the illegal fireworks. So no firecrackers, no bottle rockets, none of that stuff.
That's good because we've had some really tragic injuries in our community in the last couple of years. So I'm glad to hear that.
Right. And they've always been illegal. As somebody who liked to drive to Washington to buy all of the illegal fireworks and actually has a bank account dedicated to 4th of July firework funds every year, don't do it anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love 4th of July. It's my thing.
Well, that's cool to know about you. Well, and side note, folks, she still has all her digits.
I do have all of my digits.
Yeah. So,
but not all of my family does. And one person doesn't have hearing anymore in one ear.
Oh, great. Well, whatever.
Right, things happen, Lynn. They just happen. Don't
things
judge.
Happen. We get miles on our tires.
Some of us get flat tires.
Yeah, that's right. Limp along.
Thank you so much, Lynn. What are we going to talk about next week? Do you know?
I actually haven't thought of it yet. I'm tempted to talk about, I have an upcoming total knee replacement on myself, on my right knee. So I might report from the trenches eventually, and so I might have to line that one up a little bit. But I'm also interested in hearing what other people have to say, so I'm recruiting other colleagues in the medical field to come talk to us too.
Well, that'll be fun. All right. So how about next week we do well child visits?
Okay. All righty.
Thanks, Lynn. I'll see you next week, and everybody have a happy and safe 4th of July.
Thank you.